All right, it looks like a couple of people have joined. Can you guys let me know if you can hear me? I'm working with some new software here. And so I would appreciate it if you could throw into the chat if you can hear me at all. Yep, okay. All right, perfect. All right, sounds good. And then, like I said, I'm working with a few pieces of new software here for my for the streaming setup, so that I can share my screen too. Last time I did a live stream, it was basically just my face, which you guys, as you know, pretty boring. So we will try this out. We'll use this, and then let me know in the chat if it stops working, or if the connection starts to get choppy, or anything. If the audio starts to get bad, let me know, so we can fix it. Well, thank you guys for joining in here. If you see, I mean, you guys are probably looking at this as well, but we can see just recently we've started to see some results pour in. So I don't know if you know this or not, but the way the election results work and how they come in. And everybody's got their own sources, right? But as soon as the election places start to close, then they start to send in their results. So the first place, I think it was about 5 minutes ago that the first ones started to close. And so that's why we're just now starting to see some being called for Biden and some being called for Trump. So obviously still way too early for anything, any significant call to be made either way, but we're starting to see some pull in. So feel free as we go to throw questions into the chat here, whether it's questions about. I know that the focus today is everybody's kind of thinking whether Biden or Trump wins, what will kind of be the outcome here. So let me know if you have questions that start to pop up for you about anything really, the markets, gold, Bitcoin, the Federal Reserve, and we will roll with it. So. Any idea with that's ETHE? Is that just Ethereum? So the question says, any idea what's going on with ETHE? So I'm assuming that you by that you mean Ethereum. And no, I don't follow all the cryptocurrencies extremely closely. And part of that is because of my there's a lot of cryptocurrencies are built on the idea that they're going to operate like Bitcoin, just better. Other cryptocurrencies are built on the idea that they are going to be technologies that will enable cryptocurrency to take off. Either way, all cryptocurrencies will live or die on Bitcoin's success. If Bitcoin doesn't succeed, there won't be any other cryptocurrency that succeeds. And if Bitcoin does succeed, then some others will end up doing things. And so that's my general outlook, is that if you're going to make a bet on something else that's never been money before becoming money, my outlook is might as well put your money on the fastest horse, and a 40x or so payoff, risk to reward ratio, is good enough in my opinion if I'm going to place my money on a bet like that. I know Ethereum's supply cannot be audited. Nobody knows exactly how much Ethereum there is, and so all that being said, Bitcoin or nothing. And so if personally, I'm not going anywhere near Ethereum. Next question: do I think that gold will be negatively affected by the election? Potentially. Now I have to. There's a caveat with that is that the long-term purchasing power of gold does not change. And so what I mean by that is you can go back and you can look at records for thousands of years and see how much stuff you can buy with an ounce of gold. And for all the things that people buy, food, clothes, housing, you can buy either the same amount of stuff today as you could thousands of years ago with 1 ounce of gold, or potentially more if technology has made things cheaper. And so long term, no. The value or the purchasing power of gold is not affected by things like elections. Now, is there short-term volatility? Does that change day to day, week to week, month to month? Absolutely. Are there bubbles? Are there crashes in gold? Absolutely. And so short-term, do I think gold will be negatively affected by the election? I don't think so. There's one outcome where I think the price of gold would drop. And that's the same, where we have an election result that would indicate that there's not going to be any more stimulus or printing happening anytime soon. That's really the inverse relationship of gold is the value of the currency you're measuring it with. And so if we get gridlock, if we get a contested election, things like that make it seem that there's no way we're going to have any sort of new printing or monetary stimulus. Those are the outcomes where I would expect gold short term to be hampered. Long term, they'll get over those humps, especially once you don't have to deal with an election anymore. And so maybe short term, I'm not expecting it to be a big deal though. Let's see here. Do I think it's a good idea to wait for the election to end before buying Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is one of those. It's really what you would consider a non-correlated asset. It really does not. No matter what you try and measure it against to see what it's correlated against, it's really independent in the way that it moves right now. Similar, like Tesla for a while was like its correlation to anything else was very, very, very low. And so with Bitcoin, the number one driver of whether it goes up or down is people learning about it and then adopting it. Or learning about it and then buying it in the expectation that more people will adopt it as money in the future, because it's not money right now. And so that is the driver of Bitcoin. And so it's going to go up and down. And so people will say, hey, there was this event and then it went up, or this event and then it went down. And so people are going to say, hey, this caused it to do, A, B, or C. But really the only driver of it is more and more adoption as more and more people learn about it. And so I don't think the election will have any significant impact on what Bitcoin does. Just like I don't think monetary stimulus has any sort of impact on what Bitcoin does. They could print $1 trillion. And if people decide they want to use gold again as money instead of Bitcoin, Bitcoin will go to zero and gold will be used as money. If they decide to become fiscally conservative again and stop printing the dollar into oblivion, then Bitcoin will do whatever it's going to do. People might still want to use Bitcoin instead of a government-controlled currency, and so people might still jump on Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with a lot of macro factors that affect other things like stocks and bonds and gold. And so my view on Bitcoin is stack sats, it's dollar cost average into it, because it's very volatile, and you'll probably get a lower cost by averaging in over time. And if you get a little bit of a higher cost by averaging in, because from the time you start buying to the time you're finished buying, getting your allocation up to where you want it, if it goes up in that time, even to 20,000, the potential reward right now in today's dollars is up to, around 400,000. And so I'm okay with taking that risk of averaging in because it's so volatile that the likelihood I get a lower cost instead of a higher cost is better for me. Do I think Kanye West might play a spoiler role? No. No, we'll see what happens in the next election though. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a bigger player in 4 years. Let's see. Casey Burns. Casey Burns has a good channel. Casey Burns Investing said that I hope I'm ready to redistribute some of my wealth to him, and he'll take some of my ad revenue. So if that's a vote for socialism, Casey, then you've switched your views because I've been reading your comments for a while. But I'd happily redistribute some of the attention because you got a good channel. So anybody feel free to go check Casey's channel out, and he can take some of my ad revenue in a capitalist manner. All right, what website is that? I'm assuming you're talking about the one that's up on my screen here. This is just Google, actually. I just Googled current election results. They have the data is coming in from the Associated Press, and so it's take that as you'd like, and it's just live, so it's updating as we're sitting here. And then the way that this map works is the lead shows up in a light blue and a light red. So Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, New Hampshire. Those are the light colors, and so that's showing leads. And then the dark colors are the ones that it's showing that are won. So it's showing Kentucky went to Donald, and then Vermont went to Joe. All right, and so again, these are the way that these come in. The way that the data comes in is kind of that it's called as the numbers are coming in, and so it's especially this year. It's always possible that some of these are switched after the fact. They're called too early, so we won't. I'm not anticipating a legitimately contested election here. And if there is, I'm not anticipating that'll have a massive impact on the stock market, simply because so many people are expecting that to happen here. So markets have kind of prepped for that already. All right, let's see here. Why did Ayn Rand need that bailout again? That's a good question. I think Kevin's talking about the Ayn Rand Institute took some of the bailout money. I'm not sure. I didn't look into that. Let's see here. Scrolling through the questions as fast as I can here. Sorry, I can get on a little bit of a rant. Any development with the idea of adding gold into the SDR basket? Could the SDR be one tool among many others to ensure some stability during the transition between the old and the new monetary system? Maybe, potentially. Yeah, it's definitely possible that, and Jim Rickards, a lot of you probably know about Jim Rickards. In one of his more recent books, he talks about how behind the scenes, the SDR might have some connection through China to have a not a loose gold backing, but close to it. And so yes, especially as global power shifts, there's been a 5 decades or longer shift of global power from the West, and it's going towards the East. From a number of factors. Ray Dalio talks a lot about this: education, technology, the financial centers in the world, even military power. There's a huge shift going on towards China, and so as it takes place, they've got a lot more gold. Russia has most gold percentage-wise, is what I'm talking about here for compared to the amount of currency they have. And so yeah, absolutely, as power shifts, the monetary rules globally shift as well, and the East favors gold a lot more than the West. Let's see here. I've noticed that the miners correlate greatly to general equities and they sell off abruptly given the nature of this volatile market. Do you think it is risky to get leveraged in these miners? Yeah, so couple answers to this question. It's always risky to be leveraged. Debt equals risk. And so the answer to that question kind of depends on your personal risk tolerance, whether you're potentially going to need to access the funds, because you can have a big drop, and normally big drops happen at the same time as you need access to that cash. If it's a level of leverage that you're comfortable sitting through and you're not going to get a margin call and you're not going to be able to fill, and you're not going to get have to sell out when you're in the hole there, those are always factors to consider. The macro environment for miners, though, is probably better than they've ever been, at least in the last few decades. And so the short-term volatility doesn't bother me whatsoever with the miners. Now, that being said, miners is a big category, and there is a lot of garbage in the mining space. Peter Schiff says this, and I can't remember the line exactly, but it's there's a lot of miners there's a lot more garbage than gold, basically, and so you can definitely be over leveraged or even over allocated to a company that looks like it has great prospects, and they're never going to put a hole in the ground, and so miners is a big category, and I want to be careful there that it's, especially with gold mines, it's very, very, very important to know what you're buying. And if you don't know what you're buying, buy what the big boys are buying, because they do their research. So, Warren Buffett recently made the purchase of Barrick Gold, put a small amount of money into Barrick Gold, and that's because they're one of the big ones, and they own a lot of gold in the ground. And so that doing something like that is especially when you're considering leverage, that's very different than getting into one of the juniors that you have no ability to fly out there and verify that they're ever going to pull gold out of the ground. And then the last part of this question, the first part of your question I haven't answered yet, is that the miners correlate greatly to general equities, and that's absolutely true. And right now, that's given people a great opportunity to buy in more and more and more when their valuations are the best they've ever been. The only area of the stock market that you could consider is has a lot of value in it right now. Most other sectors are very overvalued. And so the volatility right now, at some point, value catches up, especially as more and more money is being printed. Right now, there's a lot of investors and big money that's scared to get into miners because of the history over the past 20 years. And miners right now are so conservative, they're not doing a lot of aggressive things with their cash. And so it's looking like, if you're looking for value, that's a great place to find it right now, especially as the rest of the market is so overvalued. Just make sure you're buying real mines instead of, fake holes in the ground. Any comment on Kamala's equality of outcome ad? I mean, anybody who has watched this channel or channels like this at all probably understands or probably knows what I'm going to say about this, but essentially you can't have freedom if you want equality, and you can't have equality if you want freedom. They are mutually exclusive, and any amount of equality that is legislated into existence comes at the cost of freedom. And so that applies economically as well as in a lot of other areas. But it's the arguments are flawed as well. I mean, the illustration that was played during that was if you're giving two people the same things, but they're starting from unequal places, then you're not actually giving them the same things. And these platitudes sound nice at first until you get into the execution of how to go about achieving this equality, because the only way that you can legislate those things into happening is by removing things from others. And so, and the other problem is that it's